If there's one thing that I've learned over the last couple of days, it's the fact that Arsenal fans shouldn't have an opinion. Arsenal fans should just sit there and take whatever the club is giving them. Whatever signings that they make, Arsenal fans should be positive, they should be happy, they should support the player and the club no matter what they do, and they shouldn't criticize anything. And whatever happens to Arsenal and whatever they decide to do, Arsenal fans should just accept it. Now, here's the thing, right? In this world, whenever it comes to voicing out your opinions, or whenever you're displeased about something, or you want to criticize something in any way, shape, or form, there's always going to be some backlash on it. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you protest, whether you voice your displeasure on anything, it could be on any topic in society. There will always be people in power that say, oh, that's not right, how you said it, and what you said is wrong, and this and that. There are various examples that we can get to, whether it's politics, whether it's foreign affairs, whether it's anything in this world. Whenever people voice their displeasure or are against something, there's always going to be some backlash on it. Maybe it's the way you said it, maybe it's what you said, maybe it's how you said it. But here's the thing, in this world, right, when it comes to things that are not right, whether it's anything in this world, whether you want to protest about whatever, there's always going to be some criticism on it. There's always going to be some guy who's like, oh no, what you're doing is wrong because of XYZ reason. That's just the way of life. And I think the thing about Britain and the thing about England is that whenever it comes to these things, there's always a moral policing on how are you supposed to voice your displeasure. And the thing is, no one's really given a clear-cut answer on how you're meant to do it. Whenever people do send a message or do voice their opinion on whatever it is, they're always like, oh no, it's an utter disgrace, how could you say things like that? And what I'm going to talk about is especially with Noni Madueke. Now, once again, I stress this out again, with Noni Madueke, I have absolutely nothing against the guy. I've never met the guy, don't know him, and I feel very bad for him in this situation because he shouldn't even be in this scenario in the first place. But unfortunately, with Arsenal, with the horrific dealings that they're doing as of late, we have to talk about it and we have to call things out for what they are. And I need to ask people a serious question. What is the right way to voice your displeasure? What is the right way to criticize? What is the right way to get your point or your message across? Can somebody please give me an answer to that question? Because for whatever reason, there's always going to be a damn critic around the corner. I mean, for God's sake, I just saw a hashtag Noni Madueke trending on social media, and even the BBC themselves have written an article about it. So you can tell these are the things that are going around, and for some reason there are people that are taking offense to a hashtag. Are you crazy? Are you mad? What the hell is wrong with you people? How are people meant to voice their displeasure? How are people going to sit there after a whole 5-6 years of watching this damn regime and not voice their opinions about it, or not voice their displeasure about what they're expecting, what they're seeing? 1 FA Cup and 2 Community Shields and over nearly 1 billion being spent. Yeah, people are going to talk about it and people are going to express how they feel. Don't tell people how they express how they're meant to feel, because if they're voicing their displeasure, then that's on them. And even with me, I made this channel so I could talk and I could say what I would want to say and say it to whoever I want to the public or whoever. Now, to people who have a problem with hashtag Noni Madueke, for God's sakes, you're living under a rock. There's nothing wrong with voicing your opinion online, saying no to putting a hashtag out there, saying how this is a horrible signing and why Arsenal shouldn't do this. Because how else is the message going to get across to the club? Can someone please tell me that? Because I don't think there'll be many answers. And whenever people come to me, or whenever people go online and they say, oh no, you shouldn't do this Noni Madueke thing, because what if the player sees it and what if his family sees it? Good! If they see it, they will know exactly how the fans are feeling and they will be prepared to know what the hell is going to happen coming into next season. And maybe they might think about, okay, whether this move is right for me or not. Do you think people in Real Madrid are going to accept something like this? Do you think Barcelona are going to accept something like this? Do you think the top clubs around the world will not face some sort of backlash from their fans whenever something like this does happen? How do you think sports sports clubs are run? And why is it that it's only in England that they have such a soft underbelly when it comes to these sorts of things? For God's sake, it's a hashtag, it's social media. People are going online and voicing their displeasure. I don't understand what is wrong about that. Now, yes, I do understand the other side of it. I understand if you're sending abuse and cussing out the player and going into his social media and saying horrific messages to him and his family, that I'm against. I'm also against the fact of if there are people trying to intentionally harm Noni Madueke. That's also something that I am against. You people shouldn't be doing that, and you people that do that are an absolute disgrace, because it's not him that has any fault in this whatsoever. If you want to blame someone, blame the club, blame Mikel Arteta, blame Jason Ito, blame the Cronkies, blame Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis and all those other brothers that are in this deal and actually have so many deals with Chelsea and actually sanctioning this off. Blame Berta, because that is another guy that's come to the club and meant to deal with these signings. Now, when I look at Arsenal and when I see very recently, especially the murals and how people have graffitied and vandalism and all that. Now listen, I'm not saying personally I agree with it or disagree with it, to be honest with you, but one thing I will be sure about with what I'm saying is the fact that it will definitely get the message across. And for me, how the message gets across, people are always going to have some damn complaint about it, to be honest with you. And so far from what I've seen, I don't see anyone physically hurt. I don't see anybody going to the hospital or anything like that, or riots in the streets. I think this has sent a pretty straightforward message to the club, and I think if you don't do things like this, or if you don't put out hashtags or stuff like that, then I'm not sure how else you want the message to go to the club. Now obviously I'm not going to say vandalism is right and putting graffitis on the wall is right and this and that, right? But however, you have to understand that there is a big part of the fan base that is fed up with the way that this club is being run. They're fed up with the way with these transfers and how they're going, and they're fed up of being constantly told to constantly support the players and support the regime and support the way that they're doing things and that they have a plan. Listen, if we really wanted to support we would have seen something by now from this club in terms of trophies or success or anything like that, and so far there hasn't been anything of the sort. Therefore, people are going to voice their displeasure, and that's why I say to Arsenal fans, especially wherever you are, please keep voicing your displeasure. Please keep putting out hashtag no to Madueke. Put the message forward to the club so they know exactly how the fans are feeling. And in terms of vandalism and this and that, look, that's not my cup of tea, but I get it. I understand, because how else is the message going to go to the club? And for other pundits or former players talking about how for Noni Madueke and how the Arsenal fans are responding is utterly disgraceful and vile, or whatever other adjectives you want to say. Look, buddy, one thing I can definitely say is that how Arsenal fans feel and how they choose to react, that's on them. So far, my personal opinion, I haven't seen anything in terms of from the hashtag itself that for there to be anything wrong. Now, the abuse the player is getting, completely understand. I'm on your side. He should not be getting any abuse whatsoever, especially personally or anything like that. But in terms of sending a message to the club and telling them that this is unacceptable, I am 100 billion% in support of that. So that's why when it comes to these former players such as Rio Ferdinand, and if we were to look at how many things are happening in United and what happened to certain players and the abuse some of those players have received, yeah, I think you have certain things in your club that you need to look at before you look at other clubs and what they're doing. But anyhow, Noni Madueke, 48 million plus 4 million add-ons, that is pretty much what is going to happen in terms of the transfer dealings between Arsenal and Chelsea. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to make this video is just to really talk about how there's always going to be some complaint about how you do things, and in my opinion, putting the hashtag out, making it trending, voicing displeasure on social media. And although maybe some people can argue that the murals and what was written on them was maybe a step too far, for me, I look at that and say, you know what, people need to get their message across. I mean, in order to protest and in order to get people to send a message to an organization or a government or whatever, it could be a whole lot worse, but it isn't. And I don't think it has gone to that level. I mean, don't get me wrong, football isn't never ever that serious. However, one thing I will say is that from what I've seen in terms of social media, and what people are writing online, I don't really have a big problem with it, other than, you know, the obvious abuse to Madueke. But in terms of the messages to the club, nah, I don't feel any sympathy for them whatsoever, and they deserve all the criticism that they're getting right now, because what they're doing is unacceptable. But anyhow, that is my views on this whole debacle, and I think if I were to predict the future, we're probably on course to having another civil war in the Emirates, especially between fans maybe, and a lot of people that were probably Arteta like very hardcore supporters, maybe they might suddenly decide to see things the way a lot of other people are. And don't get me wrong, for me, I try to be as objective as possible, but whenever I see BS, I call it out. But anyhow, that's me. Please like and subscribe, and hope to see you all in the next video. And for Madueke, yeah, this should be fun.